So good evening and welcome everybody to our webinar check-in for the 4-H Club Communications Project. We're excited to touch base with you tonight on where you're at and what is yet ahead. If you have not, we would like for you to sign in the chat with your name, your extension unit, and which lessons you've completed. So if you can do that for us, that just helps us know where everybody is at.
Has Amy hit record?
Yes, it's going, Diane.
Okay, super, thank you.
So one last time, and we may make this announcement again, just because we know there's a lot of folks that have some other things going on this evening, but if you would put your name, your extension unit, and which lessons you have completed in the chat, that would be great. Okay, Diane.
Well, as Beth said, good evening and hello, everyone. It's great to reconnect after a couple of months. Great to read the successes you've had. And we also know that if you need to catch up, that's okay too. We know that life happens, and so we appreciate the work that everybody's been doing. But again, we just kind of wanted to see kind of a benchmark of how things are going. So kind of a lesson reflection. What has gone well for people for lessons 5, 9, and 10? For the last 3, things been going well?
Feel free to unmute or type in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you.
Lesson 5, I didn't get a lot of real feedback from the club. Seemed like the kids were engaged, but it wasn't, real exciting. With Let's Write. But lesson 9, where we talked about illustrated talks, and I kind of threw in a little bit about demonstrations at the same time, but we haven't really dove into that. Dive. Either way, whatever. I haven't really gotten deeply into that yet. But with the illustrated talks, I had some examples of what I would consider to be not as well put together. And we talked about what could be improved. And then we had some that were that we looked at from the K-State, the Kansas State Fair website. And so I think the kids were really engaged with that.
So that was helpful for them to watch other young people give. Good.
Yes.
Did anybody else utilize those as well? Thank you, Dorothy.
This is Sherelle Young. I was just going to comment on the one about writing letters. We've actually had 2 4-H members who have taken this communications project on and are working very well together to present something to our club each month. And they actually gave a very good example of how to write a handwritten letter, and then challenged all the members of our 4-H club to write a handwritten letter to one of the residents of our local nursing home, and told the kids to bring back those letters, and anybody who wrote one was given a piece of candy. So there was some incentive there, and it was a very nice way to give our residents who've been unable to visit with people for so long a nice personalized letter.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You bet.
What a great way to apply how to write a letter and use it as a community service in these COVID times for our community members who haven't been able to visit people. So excellent. And tell me again where you're from.
Our club is the Veneta Club in Kingman County.
Okay,
We
thank you.
actually meet in Cheney because we're right outside of, we meet right outside of Kingman County. So it's our nursing home in Cheney, the Golden Age home that received those letters, but we are a Kingman County club.
Thank you.
Diane, I know with sharing your screen, can you see the chat?
Yeah, go ahead and read it, Beth.
Okay. Barbara says, our club had lots of fun with illustrated talks and demonstrations. We had each member bring an object to the club meeting and then talk about it for 2 minutes for our illustrated talks. With the majority of our members under age 12, this was fun. Our demonstrations, we had all club members recall their attempts or real demonstrations. This was after we had 3 volunteers do a 3-minute demo.
Excellent. Anyone else want to share? Okay, we just kind of wanted to go over the timeline again as we think about as we go through this project. And so we're having our check-in tonight. And then June, July, and August, we hope that youth will give a presentation at a club meeting or enter a communications project exhibit at the county fair. We'll have another webinar August the 10th at 7, just to kind of wrap things up. And we'll talk about an survey that we want folks to do. And then during August, and we do want those done in August to do those surveys. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we end today. Amy or Beth?
Yep. Okay, so just as a recap, you know, when we set out at the beginning of this, we had the 6 different lessons. And so if you've been able to stick to the schedule, we've completed all 6. Now, we fully know that life happens, right? And I fully expect my child to run out of the shower at any moment. So I'm right there with you in the real world. But if you need to play catch up, that's fine too. I mean, we've still got several months left in the 4-H year. And even with summer and some clubs may choose not to meet in July or August due to county fairs, I think there's still plenty of room to get caught back up and kind of make it work for whatever your situation looks like in your local club. Go ahead to the next slide. And, you know, we've had this slide on every single webinar that we've presented. And I think we want to keep this in front of you. Hopefully, you know, if you've heard it now 4 different times, it's kind of starting to look familiar and sound familiar. But we're kind of in the phase or the stage of the experiential learning model where we are applying the skills. Right? We've been doing and we've been reflecting, but now we're actually going to apply them into what we, you know, typically think of as a project exhibit or in a record book, and we'll get to those in the next 2 slides. So we want to make sure we come full circle with this communications project. Oh, you're good. Thanks. So the showcasing opportunities, and you know, the first thing I'll say about this is this might look different depending on the local unit that you're in. So I would my first piece of advice is to visit with your local office or your extension agents to find out what opportunities and you know how it's written in your local fair book. It's a little bit different across the state from unit to unit. So if you have the opportunity, if your kids have the opportunity to present actual illustrated talks or project talks, demos, any of those sort of public presentation type things at your local county fairs, we would encourage them to participate in that. Now, again, with that said, sometimes you have to be enrolled in a project to exhibit in a project at a county fair. So again, just visit with your local agents to see what options you have. The other thing we would encourage you, if your county or district doesn't already have that public presentation division or department at your county fair, maybe there's an opportunity for an educational display instead of or in addition to the public presentations. So that could look like a number of different things. That could be, like one of those 3 tri-panel displays or a poster. It could be a notebook. In the digital age that we're in, especially with social media, maybe kids are producing videos or flyers or infographics. We've written communications is just as much a part of this as is verbal. So we want to give kids the opportunity to showcase those skills and however, they want to convey a message. So again, encourage your kiddos to think about how they might want to exhibit or just, showcase what they've learned. And then the other thing I would say, if they're at a loss as far as, what do I make a poster about? I would encourage them to create or to tie the content of their educational display to the curriculum, maybe to a specific activity that they've done with one of the 6 lessons that you facilitated, or maybe they take it upon themselves to do a 7th or 8th, self-initiated. But if they could tie that to the curriculum, then we've really, come full circle and shown how impactful a curriculum could be. So again, just some ideas and thoughts there as you guys are heading into the summer season. Any questions before we move on? Okay, Diane, you can go to the next slide. The other piece of showcasing is the record keeping or project awards. And we've got new project report forms this year that replace the KAPs. Again, check with your local unit for any specific requirements, but if your kiddos are enrolled in the communications project and they've really been active and engaged throughout the communications curriculum, we'd really like to see them fill out a project report form for the communications project. So that's kind of a screenshot of the first page of those new forms. And I'm hoping that looks familiar to some of you. The other piece, even if they aren't enrolled in the communications project, there's still an opportunity to record and document their involvement so far, and they could put that into the permanent record. So again, 2 opportunities to kind of document and reflect upon what they've participated in. Questions about that? Okay.
I do want to go back to just one idea that one of you shared here this evening, and that was the letters that you wrote at your club meeting. What a wonderful activity that might be at the county fair. So let's say there's not an opportunity to display something or to have a demonstration or illustrated talk at your county fair. What's the possibility of setting up someplace in the fair building and teaching others what you've learned? That's an important way, when we're looking at that experiential learning model, that's an opportunity for those young people in your club to apply what they've learned and to share that with others. And certainly at the county fair, there's all kinds of reasons to be writing letters to people. And So now when we look at this and we talk about evaluation and documentation, we still want you to share your efforts on social media. We have seen a few of those. We haven't seen as many lately. So if we've missed them, you just have to let us know and make any note of any of those aha moments. You're watching that happen in your club. So, kind of like when somebody explained earlier, it's like, with the writing, people didn't get very excited, but they really loved whatever. So, make note of those. And if there's something that is just really an aha, let us know that because we'd like to be able to share it as well. We do appreciate if you would continue to take some photos and think about those photos, as you finish, if you have not, or when the young people in your club are actually, again, back on that experiential learning model, they're applying what they've learned, doing a demonstration, doing an illustrated talk at your club meeting, or some kind of an exhibit at the county fair. We'd love to see those. And just, again, we're verifying those things always with our local extension agents to make sure that we have the photo release for those participants. But, they often say a picture speaks 1,000 words. And, once this project is completed, we would like some of those pictures to help tell the story of what happened this year as young people learned better communication skills.
Beth, I just wanted to share, Dickinson County has shared with us a couple of newspaper articles that have been included. So we appreciated seeing that.
I'll go ahead and do this one. As a reminder, all of the webinars, including tonight's, can be found on the Club Communications Project page. And we kind of have the breadcrumbs there, the trail of how to get there. You go to kansas4h.org, and then you hover over projects, then personal development, then communications, and then club communications projects. So there's a couple different layers to it, but it does make sense. And again, you can go back and watch. There's actually webinar 3 is there as well. And at any point in time, if you want to go back and look at the schedule or the timeline, it's there under the project leader description as well. So again, if you needed to go back and watch any of those, if you're playing catch up, that's where those are located.
Looking ahead, evaluation efforts, and our last webinar is August the 10th. And I'm going to stop sharing here a minute, and then I'm going to actually go back and share the evaluation tool that we're going to want to have you share with your club participants who have been involved. And I guess as I hear people say they're you've wrapped up the 6 lessons. And so we were thinking that August would be this time because they're still going to have the opportunity to give some demonstrations or illustrated talks and then compete at the county fair. And then so that's why we're thinking in August. But if you think that's too long of a time period, I just would like to hear from those of you who have kind of finished up the lessons, how are you going to keep this kind of momentum going?
I'm thinking that for our club, I'll continue to work with the members to maybe go into a little more depth in each of these areas, especially for illustrated talks, the public speaking aspect of it, and the demonstrations. And we'll continue to work on those and see if we can get some members who will step up and do these at the county fair.
Okay.
So I think August would be fine.
Super. If you can click on the reaction button, which is down at the lower right, and just tell us how many of you do have a chance at your county fair to actually give a demonstration or some type of public presentation. I'm just curious. So that reaction button, Okay, very good. Dorothy's found it there. It's on the, if you kind of hover over the bottom of your screen, you'll see a reaction button with a smiley face. Or if you don't have that, you can just tell us, there's Janine, okay. Few of you do have that option. And if you don't have that option, if you could write in the chat, that would be helpful to us as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I'm going to share the evaluation tool. And so as I'm thinking about this, we can either have you do it with an online format, or we can have you do hard copy. So I want you to kind of think about what would work the best for your club if we would send you a link that you would have the kids actually go on and do the survey, or if you would prefer hard copy. Is everybody seeing that? Okay. So basically, it's kind of just going to ask about, are they aware of their body language and nonverbal communication? They're either going to strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. So there's some statements here that they'll just go through, and if they're doing electronically, they'll just click on it, or if they're having it paper version, they'll just circle that. And then we have a couple of open-ended questions to tell about an experience where your 4-H communication skills have helped you. Describe the 4-H experience that has the greatest impact on your ability to speak in front of others. And then here's where they can just check if they've given it at a club meeting, a project meeting, or perhaps other places, club day, regional club day. And then there's just some demographic information that we need to ask, as we are a part of Kansas State University. So basically, this is our tool that we will be having you give to the club members. And so I'm just curious if you would do that online, or prefer a link where the kids would go in there and do it, or you would prefer a paper copy. So yes, we would have the surveys due in August.
I think a paper copy would be easier to do during a club meeting, and it would be more likely that the kids themselves would fill it out versus an online version.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? That's what we were assuming, but we didn't know. So that's why. So we would get you those, since the timing of your club meetings, we would get those to you early August. So paper, okay. Okay, so some of you would prefer that link too, because you have older members. I appreciate that. So we'll let you have both of those options. If we sent this as a link, would you prefer to have the copies that we would send you the copies, or could you have copies made? Okay, and you could go to your extension office. I've let your extension agents know as well. So if you need copies, you could ask them to make them as well. So this is very helpful to me. I was just trying to see, what would work best. So it sounds like maybe go ahead and send a link if they could do it. Most of you would prefer to do it with a paper copy. Is there any other questions or thoughts for today that we haven't covered? Or maybe you're having a couple challenges and you would like to chat with those that have experienced the way they've done things? Everybody's okay?
Diane, I did want to remind people that, I know our timing was a little different on this, and you didn't really get the opportunity to learn about demos and illustrated talks prior to 4-H Day. But we know a number of the young people in your club did participate in 4-H Day. And so if you look at what's available at the Kansas State Fair, any demonstration or illustrated talk or project talk receiving a superior rating in a county or district contest can be entered at the state fair. And we also have an opportunity for a poetry or a prose that was used at some kind of a local contest as well. So talk to your extension agent. I don't want to say if that's a purple or a blue because every county or district is just a little bit different. But for those young people that got a top ribbon on their public presentation, there's a good possibility they could at least bring that to the state fair, even if there's not an opportunity to give it again at the county fair.
I had one more thought I was going to mention during one of my slides and forgot about it, but think creatively about showcasing opportunities. It doesn't always have to take place at the county fair. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But what else could we do? And one thought I had was, how cool would it be if you had a group of young people who put together a talk or presentation and was willing to take it to the county commissioners or a school board and kind of give a review of the skills and the experiences they've had this past year as a result of this communications project. And I think that would speak volumes to some of our stakeholders and partners to see that, youth voice in front of them. So again, be creative about the opportunities to tell the story and kind of share what this experience has taught our kids.
Amy, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I love the idea of this going in front of some of our stakeholders and decision makers. One of my clubs, when I was the Ellis County 4-H agent, after 4-H Day, they would all go into the nursing home and take all of their talks and demos. And we certainly know that nursing homes probably by later this summer, maybe this fall, will really be excited to see some people. And hopefully they'll be open and available for that. So that's another great opportunity to use this not only to improve communication skills, but really to reach some people in our community that need to be reached as well.
One last question I'm really curious about. If you could just put in the chat box, how many 4-Hers are you working with this project? I'm just curious as we look around the state. If you could just put that in the chat box. How many are you working with? 25? Are you working with 10? What does that look like for you? We know we have all different sizes of clubs out there. 10, 15. Super, thank you. Okay, any other thoughts before we end tonight? We know you have a million other things going on, and so we appreciated you connecting with us here, and we'll be sending some more information along with the evaluation pieces. But we certainly appreciate this adventure that you've been on with us, and I'm sure the kids appreciated it as well. So thank you. Amy or Beth, any last comment?
Nope, just continued thanks. And I hope you guys know how much we appreciate your leadership and your willingness to facilitate all of these lessons throughout the year. It may not seem like it in the moment, but you really are creating experiences that will stick with these kids for a very long time. So.
Okay, thank you.